Welcome to an exciting episode of the Intercom podcast. I'm once again joined by Fergal, our Director of Machine Learning, and he's going to tell us about the launch of something that we've been asked for pretty much every day since ChatGPT launched.
Yeah, thanks, Des. So ever since ChatGPT came out, people were like, hey, can I use that to answer my support questions for my business? And we were always like, oh, we don't know, we're not sure about the hallucinations. But yeah, today I think we're really excited to announce this product because we think we've done it. We think we've built something that it's like, yeah, this will actually be a bot that you can use for your business that has the sort of the natural language processing capability of ChatGPT, but will answer like questions specifically about your business. And we've built it using your help center. Won't answer questions from randomly around the internet or anything. You can control what it says, and managed to get the accuracy rate up a lot through using OpenAI's new GPT-4 model, which you have access to in beta.
So the idea is like what people have experienced and kind of fallen in love with in ChatGPT, which is effectively this bot that you can ask anything to and it gives a good stab at answering. You can do that for your business?
Yes, so we've deliberately made it so you can't ask it anything.
Okay.
But it's like, the idea is to build something that has the same sort of conversational understanding that we've kind of seen with ChatGPT, but that specifically only answers questions about your business. You can come along, you can ask it something wild about like, who was the 22nd president of America, and it'll be like, hey, I'm only here to answer customer support questions about this specific business.
Cool. So it actually knows what it should and shouldn't attempt to effectively.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea, yeah.
I feel like 7 or 8 weeks ago you said we weren't doing this because it wasn't going to be easy or wasn't possible or something like that.
6 or 7 weeks ago when we started looking at this technology, initially when we looked at it first, we were like, wow, can we build this? Can we build ChatGPT for your business? That was like top of everyone's minds. Every customer was asking us about it. We were kind of looking at it and we were going, gosh, like this hallucinates a lot. This will, give you inaccurate results, wildly inaccurate results, totally made up things. And we were like, it's a very exciting technology, but we're not sure if we can actually like constrain it and kind of stop it hallucinating enough. And we spent a lot of time playing with like GPT 3.5. We could just never get it to know when it doesn't know something. But recently we've got access to a new beta from OpenAI of their new GPT-4 model. And one of the things they told us was like, hey, this is designed to hallucinate a lot less than some of the other models we've seen in the past. And so, we were like, wow, that sounds very interesting. That sounds very exciting. GPT-4, what's it going to do? And we spun up an effort to look at this and to sort of like put this through some of our test beds to kind of check and examine for hallucinations. And when we kind of started playing with it, we were like, wow, this seems a lot better. It can still hallucinate sometimes, but it hallucinates like a lot less, maybe like 10 times less. And so we were extremely excited. We were like, wow, okay, this suddenly feels like this is good enough to build a bot with. This is a generation ahead of the GPT 3.5 stuff we're using and is a lot further along in terms of how trustworthy it is.
What does like the tests look like? Are there torture tests that we put these bots through to see exactly what, do they know when they're bullshitting basically?
So we're not that far along. So for our previous generation of models for like resolution bot, we had this like really, really well developed set of like battle tested, test benchmarks that we built over years. All this new technology is months old, so we're not quite as principled as that. But we have identified a bunch of edge cases. And we've got this like spreadsheet. We keep track of like specific types of failure modes that we're seeing with these new models. And so when GPT-4 came along, we were like, okay, let's try this out. Let's try what happens when you ask it a question that like isn't contained in an article or a knowledge base at all. Or you ask it a question that like is similar but not entirely the same as what's actually there. And with sort of like GPT 3.5 and with ChatGPT, if it doesn't know something, it's almost like it really wants to please you. It really wants to give you what you want. And so it just makes something up. And with GPT-4, they obviously have done a bunch of work on reducing that. And that's just really obvious to us. And so when we put it kind of through our tests, it's possible to get it to say, I don't know, or to express uncertainty a lot more.
And if the bot doesn't know, can it like hand over to a human?
Absolutely. Intercom, we believe that the future of support is like a mix of like bots and humans. We've a lot of experience with resolution bot of making like a nice handover from the bot to the human support rep. Hopefully getting that support rep ahead in the conversation. We think we still need to do that with this bot. There will be issues where it's just, someone's like, it's always going to be the case, someone's asking for a refund. Maybe you want a human to approve that. So there's always going to have to be a human approval path. Intercom, we've got a really good platform around like workflows, and you're going to be able to use that to control when the bot hands over and how it hands over. We're going to make sure that this new bot integrates with our existing platform just the same way that our existing bots do.
And I presume the bot will have disambiguated or qualified the query in some way, perhaps summarized it even as it hands it over.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't have any summarization feature in there at the moment, but the bot absolutely will attempt to sort of like disambiguate and draw out the customer response. And, our existing resolution bot does a little bit of that. This new bot, because it's so much better at natural language processing, can just do that more effectively. And so maybe that means that the handling time goes down for your actual rep for the questions that the bot has touched.
Listeners to our Intercom on Product podcast would know I'm often fond of saying that having a capability, even a novel capability that's useful, isn't enough to have a great product. How have you wrapped a product around this, or what were your goals? What are the design goals for building an actual product around this GPT-4 capability?
So we realized pretty early on that there was really a set of design goals that we were trying to head towards. First and foremost, we wanted to capture the natural language understanding that people sort of saw and were very impressed with ChatGPT. We wanted to take it, get a generation above what was there before. So that if you ask like a pretty complicated question, or if you ask one question, then you ask a follow-on question, that it sort of understands that the second question is to be interpreted in light of the one before. Our previous bot didn't do that, and most bots out there, they just don't do that because that was just too hard. Or conversations are very tricky environments for machine learning algorithms. There's a lot of subtlety and interplay in sort of a support conversation. But this new tech seems to do great at that. And so that was our first goal, is to really capture that.
So is an example of that, like you might ask a question, you say, do you have an Android app? Well, what about iPhone? Like to parse, well, what about iPhone makes no sense unless you've previously parsed it. Well, do you have an Android app, as an example? So exactly. It's that sort of gluing things together to understand the conversational continuity and context or whatever.
Exactly. And with that, it just flows more naturally. And we specifically noticed this with our new bot when, you ask it a question and you kind of you get an answer and it's not exactly what you asked. Mm-hmm. You can just be like, oh, but no, I really meant to ask about pricing for that. And then it understands that, and it'll go and give you the more relevant answer to that. We just think we feel that's a real breakthrough technology.
Can it push back on you and say more, or can I ask you follow-on questions to qualify your question? So if you come with something vague like, hey, does this thing work? Would it try and solve that, or would it be like, yo, I need more than that?
So natively, the algorithms will do a certain amount of that. But actually, with this sort of technology, we get this very advanced capability. And then actually what we're trying to do is we're trying to constrain it a lot. We're trying to actually say, okay, you can do all this out of the box, but we need more control. Like you alluded to earlier, to build a good product experience, it's like we've got loads of flexibility and loads of power. Now what we need is the ability to limit it and to control it. And so we have built experiences like that. We've built a disambiguation experience where, if you ask a question and there isn't enough information, we have it try and clarify that. But we control that. We've sort of engineered prompts where we have special purpose applications of the technology to do each task in the conversations. One prompt to get you to ask a question, another one to disambiguate a question, another one to check to see if an answer fully answered you. And so we start off with this very powerful language model, but then we really just want to use it as a building block. We want to control it. We achieve that control by kind of breaking it up into special purpose modules that do each thing separately.
So as a foundational level, we're saying it can converse naturally. The biggest advantage of that, to my mind, as a product is that you'll be comfortable putting it as the first line of solution in front of your customers. I was going to say defense, but it's not like a military operation. But you're comfortable putting it out there as hey, most conversations go here. Yeah. And the fact that it can have a back and forth, can maintain context, can disambiguate, means it's well equipped to do that. What else did you add in? So it's not just sitting there to chat. What else does it do?
I guess the first thing I would say is certainly different businesses are probably going to have different levels of comfort in terms of how they deploy this. Some people are probably going to say, well, I've got a really great help center, and this bot that we've built, it draws all its information from your help center. So I'm going to come back to that. So some people might say, look, I have a really good help center. It's very well curated. I've put a lot of articles in there over time. And what I want to do is I want to have the bot just like dialogue and answer all those questions. Probably is going to be like other customers where they're like, I want the bot to kind of come in more opportunistically and kind of bow out. And, we're working on building like settings to enable people to like control their level of comfort with that.
Some sort of threshold for when the bot should jump in, basically.
Exactly. And, at the moment we have a pretty big workflows capability that you can use, and we're integrating the bot with all our existing workflows to help you get that control about like when you want it to come in, and more importantly, when you want it to like leave, so you can hand over to your existing support team when it's sort of, it's reached its end.
So you could do things like if there's no support agents online, or if the user is free, just send them straight to the bot. If it's a VIP customer and agents are sitting idle, send them straight to the agent.
Exactly. So again, what we're trying to do here is take this new technology and then like integrate it with our existing platform that sort of like has all those features that people need to really sort of to build I guess industrial standard bot deployment.
Nice.
So we've talked about reducing hallucinations. We've talked about how it was a design goal of ours to kind of have the bot converse naturally. But we really wanted to give our customers control over the sort of questions it could answer. Now, these bots, this new AI technology, you get access to like a large language model, and it's been trained on like the entire text of the internet. So in there, it has all that knowledge. And one way, kind of the simplest way to deploy this is to be like, hey, I'm just going to have the bot answer questions using all its information about the internet. But the problem with that is that if it doesn't know something, it can make it up. Or if it does know something, maybe you don't want it talking to your customers about a potentially sensitive topic that it has information about, and you're like, I'm not sure how my business or my brand feels about whatever information it got off some weird website. I don't want to having that conversation with my customer. So we've done a lot of work to use the large language model, to use it to like be conversational, to use it to understand a help center article you have, but to constrain it to only giving information that's in an actual help center article that you control and that you can update and you can change and you can edit. And so that was a major design goal for us, is to kind of try and make this bot trustworthy, to try and take the large language models but build a bot that's constrained to using them to just answer questions about your business, about your business's help center. And that was a lot of work. We are very proud of that. We think that we've got something that's really good, because you get that sort of like conversational piece, you get the bot's intelligence, the AI model's intelligence to sort of like get an actual answer from a help center article, but it's constrained. It's not going to go and start having random conversations with end users. These bots, these models, it's always possible if you jailbreak them to kind of trick them into saying something that's off-brand or that you wouldn't want, and that's probably still possible, but we really feel we've got to the point where that would require like kind of a determined hacking attempt to really make that work. And it's not just going to go radically off script in normal conversations. And I think one thing that is very important to clarify is these large language models, they're probabilistic. Like, the hallucinations have decreased a lot, and we think it's now acceptable for many businesses, but it's not zero. They will occasionally give irrelevant information. They'll occasionally give incorrect information where they read your help center article, they didn't fully understand it, and so they answer a question wrong. Possibly a support agent will make mistakes too as well.
Humans have been known to.
Humans occasionally have been known to make mistakes too. And so like these bots, it's a new era of technology. It's got a different trade-off than what we had before. And so, possibly some customers of ours will be like, oh, I want to wait. I don't want to deploy this just yet. But we think this will cross the threshold where it's like, hey, the benefit of like, I don't need to do the curation. I don't need to do the setup that I've had to do in the past with Resolution Bot. I can just turn this on like day one, and then suddenly like all the knowledge that's in my help center, the bot has it. The bot can try and answer questions with it. It won't get it perfect, but it'll be fast. We think that that's going to be a worthwhile trade-off for a lot of businesses.
In terms of setup, if you're a customer with a good knowledge base, how long does it take you to go from that to a good bot? How much training is involved? How much configuration?
Very little time at all. Very little, like basically no training. You can just take the new kind of system we've built and you can point it at your existing help center. There's a little bit of processing time where we kind of have to like pull it in and scrape it and like get the articles ready for serving.
Like minutes, seconds?
At the moment, we're sort of in minutes, but we think maybe by the time this video airs, maybe it'll be down a lot lower than that. And so, yeah, there's no hard engineering bottleneck to making that very, very low. And so very excited about that.
So in summary, give us the bullet points of this product. What should we tell the market about it?
The first thing I would say is that, hey, it'll talk with you in a natural way, like you've seen with like ChatGPT. The second thing is that like you as a business, you can control what it says. You can limit the things it will talk about to the contents of your knowledge base. The third thing I would say is, hallucinations are like way down from when they were, really reduced. And the fourth thing I would say is like, look, this is really easy to set up. You just take this, you point it at your existing knowledge base. You don't need to do a whole bunch of curation, anything like that.
Awesome. Okay, because we're Intercom, we're not really likely to like chat shit and engage in a load of hype without at least some qualifications. What areas are we still working to improve?
The first thing I would say is that like the accuracy piece is not perfect. This is a new type of technology. It's a new type of software engineering trade-off. So, with Resolution Bot would sometimes come and give an irrelevant answer, but you could always kind of look at it and go like, oh, I see what it's talking about. That's not quite relevant. This is a little bit different. This will sometimes give irrelevant answers, but it may also sometimes give incorrect answers. It may have just misunderstood the information in your knowledge base. And so a specific example of this is sometimes like if you have a list of times something can happen and some user asks it, it might assume that list is exhaustive. It might assume that list was like all the times, and then it will be like, oh no, it wasn't in the list in the article, so I'm going to say the answer is no, it can't happen. This thing cannot happen this other time.
An example there might be like, you might have a knowledge base article that says, examples of when we will not refund your payment, and you might list out 2 or 3 examples. And in this world, the language model would be like, there's three conditions under which this happens, and it would like kind of like you can see why it's making the mistake, but it would like not get that these are just demonstrative examples. These are not the exhaustive list. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. It's general knowledge and its general understanding is still a little bit limited here, and so it can look at like lists of things and just make assumptions that are like generally in the neighborhood of okay, but sometimes not quite right. And so most of the time when we see it kind of make an error, the error seems like fairly reasonable, but still wrong. But you need to be okay with that. That's a limitation. You need to be okay with the idea that sometimes it might give things that are slightly wrong.
And is it quantifiable? My guess is it's not, because it'll be different per question, per knowledge base, per customer, per acceptability.
Yeah.
But so when someone says, hey, how good is the bot? How do you best answer that?
So the best thing to do is to go and play with a demo of it on your own help center. And we're building this experience where you can take your existing help center and very quickly get access to a demo of the bot, pre-purchase, to just kind of like play with it yourself and understand kind of how well this works for your specific help center.
And you'd suggest like replay the last 20 conversations you had, or your most common support queries. Like, how does any individual make an informed decision there? Like, because obviously I'm sure it'll do the whole, hello, are you a bot? Yes, I am.
We think that just interacting with it, you can pretty quickly get an idea of sort of the level of accuracy. If you ask your sort of your top 20 questions, or the type of questions people ask you day in, day out, and you probe around those, you ask for clarification, you get a pretty good sense of where is this good and where the breaking points are. And for us, again, it's an amazing new product. We're really excited about it, but it's still generation 1. We're going to improve all the sort of machine learning pieces. We'll sort of improve all those measurement pieces over time as well. So,
and then with Resolution Bot 1, our previous bot, like you would train it. So you would say, hey, that's the wrong answer. Here's what I want you to say, etc. You're not doing that this time around. So if you detect it giving an imprecise answer or it could do better, what's the best thing to do? Do you write a better article? Do you look at its source?
Yeah, so I think it's still early days here, and we probably will build features to allow you to have more fine control over it. But like right now, the answer to that question is, hey, can you make your knowledge base article clearer? And actually developing this bot, we have seen that there's a lot of ambiguous knowledge-based articles out there in the world where, just little bits of it, like it could be a little bit clearer.
What other areas do you think will evolve over the coming months?
There's a lot of work to do on our end to sort of, we've got version 1 at the moment to improve it. We want to get it live with customers, want to get actual feedback based on usage. And there's always, any machine learning product I've ever worked on, there's always a ton of iteration and a ton of improvement to go over time. Also, we want to improve the level of integration with our existing resolution bot. So our existing resolution bot requires that sort of curation, but if you do it, that curation, it's excellent. And it can do things like take actions. You can wire it up with your API, so you're it realizes someone's asking about resetting a password and will actually go and trigger that password reset. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important for us that this kind of next generation bot, is able to do all those things as well. So initially it'll be hey, answer informational questions from your knowledge base, 0 setup, day 1, get it live, it's great. But eventually, we've seen this in every piece of research we've done, to get to the next level after that, people are going to want the ability to sort of use that technology and capability we already have to kind of actually take actions to resolve queries. And then the last piece that I'm extremely excited about is this idea that we can take this new AI technology and use it to actually generate dramatically more sort of support content than we've been able to in the past.
So one vision we spoke about maybe only 2 months ago, I guess, was the idea that the support team would be answering questions that are I think at the time I said they'll be answering the questions for the first time and the last time. So if a question makes its way through, it's because we haven't seen it before. Yeah. And once we have seen it, we don't see it again. How is that can you see that happening?
I think for the first time, yeah, I can see a path to that.
Yeah.
When we shipped Resolution Bot 1.0, this feature request we were always getting was, hey, can I have my support rep in the inbox? Can I have them answer a question and then just put that question in the bot? And we were anytime we tried to do that, it didn't work, because putting a question and curating a question to be good enough to design an intent was just a lot of work. And across the industry, there's a lot of different sort of support bots. I haven't ever seen anyone who's managed to nail this and make that really work. But now, with the sort of advanced large language models, we think we can see a path to that, where maybe we can have a curation experience that is simple enough that a support rep in an inbox can just finish answering a conversation and be yes, I approve this answer to go into the bot. There has to be some human approval, because, it can't be that we ask the bot, Fergal can't come along and say to the bot, hey, what's Des's credit card number? And the bot will be well, I know the answer to that, because, it was in this other conversation Des was in. Yeah, yeah. We can't, that's unacceptable. There has to be some approval step between, private conversations and durable support knowledge. But we think we see a path to a much better approval process there than we've ever had before. And potentially a world where it's maybe not every issue, but the number of way more issues where it's answer this issue only once. Yeah, we think there's something cool coming there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's an exciting release. Is it available to everyone?
So this is in private beta at the moment. In fact, it's just heading towards private beta at the moment, with the new release of GPT-4 from OpenAI.
Exciting. Well, I'll check in a few weeks and see how it goes on.
Yeah, exciting times.